Okay, thank you and welcome to our regular council meeting, Tuesday, March 22nd. And to all of those joining us by live stream, welcome to you as well. I'm going to call us to order at 1:01 p.m. We have an agenda in front of us. Mr. Coleman, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Nothing from administration, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Vandenberg.
Madam Chair, I have 3 notice of motions I wish to read in, presumably section 6.
All right, we will add in notice of motion. I guess that would be, 6D. Okay, and we'll read those in at that time. Is that correct, Mr. Coleman?
We just need to know what the notice of motions are for the agenda. What the items are. And
what
then
the items are?
They're read in at the end, that point in time.
Councillor External Committee reporting, pardon me. Councillor participation in promotional videos. Council communication distribution.
Okay, thank you for that. Looking for someone to move the agenda as amended. Councillor Wanchuk, thank you very much. All in favor? That is unanimous. We have minutes of our March 8th meeting. Looking for someone to move those as being correct. Councillor Smith, comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous. We have an opportunity at the beginning of every meeting for anybody who'd like to address council on an item that is not on the agenda can come forward now. Seeing the people there are actually on the agenda. So with that, we will move into 5A, which is a public, 115, we can't move there. Oh, years of service. Sorry, my apologies. Chief Lefebvre.
Madam Mayor and Council, it's my pleasure to present Deputy Chief Ivana Irwin on her 5 years with Leduc County, the certificate of appreciation. And Ivana started with Kalmar actually 15 years ago. Ooh. And so she came over to Leduc County when we took over direct oversight of Kalmar Fire Service. So she was a captain in Kalmar and doing an awesome job for almost 3 years or 4 with COVID, time gets by, but very helpful in the office as a deputy fire chief in charge of training and emergency management. So she's been pretty guiding with us. So in appreciation of 5 years.
Thank you.
Probably is. Thank you.
Just hold on if you could for 2 seconds. I just want to get back to my microphone. It was Councillor Lewis who leaned over at the beginning of the meeting and said, wow, Ivana's been with us for 5 years already. So the time does go fast, but certainly the work that you've done for both council and our county around emergency management and working on, that's a very large file. It's a very important file and you handle it so very well. So on behalf of council, thank you. We hope to have you for 15 more years like you were in Kalmar to continue with the excellent service. So thank you. Okay, Mr. Coleman. I am scrolling down to see who's available here, and it might be Mr. Bain. So we're going to go to 6C1. Because we need to start our public hearings at the allotted time. So, Mr. Bain, if you could, please. Letter from Clarity Development Advisory and Alpin Martin Consultants. Whenever you're ready, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, we're bringing this matter forward for just information of council and any discussion council might wish to have. The Clarity Development Advisory Group and Applin Martin Consulting submitted a letter to Mayor DeBlanco on the 8th of February. The letter raises some concerns we thought was worthy of some discussion at this table, Madam Chair, in relation to the perception that the county has not been following its directions set out in its municipal development plan since its adoption in 2019. And the letter urges the council and the administration to proceed with clear direction dictated in its approved statutory planning framework. So again, we wanted to have, there should be a response to the concerns that are raised. We thought it would be appropriate to have a discussion with council before initiating that response. And there are specific files that are noted in the letter, identified in the letter, Madam Chair, and I'm not going to review those in any degree of detail, but there's kind of a high level overview of each noted in the report. The first one relates to an outline plan near Wizard Lake that was before council in 2021. It was an application for an outline plan to support residential development on a property adjacent to the lake. The plan was advanced to council for consideration in May of 2021. Administration supported the plan with a positive recommendation. Some members of council expressed some concern with some of the details of the plan and declined to approve the plan. And the second item relates to the Northeast Country Residential area that's identified in the municipal development plan. It's the area directly north of the Southern Country Residential Area Structure Plan project that's currently active. And so the authors of the letter have indicated they have clients with interest in land in the northern area, and they desire to proceed with the statutory planning process. And of course, council's been having some discussions around servicing in the southern area and continue to have those discussions, and council's sort of been workshopping their way through some conversations around servicing and long-term financial risk related to that approach. And then the third file relates to an inquiry that arrived at the administration for a response, and it relates to a proposed metal recycling center. And there was a prospective tenant for a NISQ site looking at leasing a portion of a property to site this facility. And in order for administration to respond, we did undertake a preliminary review, and it was a technical review. There was an internal referral process undertaken to support that process. And the review concluded that the proposal was not consistent with the relevant regulatory and statutory planning documents. And so the response that went back indicated that. So that's very high level overview, obviously the three specific issues. But I think the key points from administration's perspective on these matters, Madam Chair, is that each of them is unique. So there are details and nuances associated with each, and those sort of dictated the path that was taken on each of those. And so they're not necessarily connected in a technical sense. And I think the larger overriding issue here from administration's perspective is that council's discretion in relation to matters that are connected to development decisions. Council's discretion on those matters is absolute, right? So council has the ability to make whatever decision they feel appropriate. That's irrespective of whatever recommendation the administration might bring forward. There's a reason why those decisions rest at the council level, Madam Chair. So that is the staff report. The letter is attached to the report for the information of council. And those would conclude my remarks.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that summary. Any comments or questions for administration? Councillor Vandenberg?
So if I understand this correctly, and there's quite a lot happening here. The first concern, which is Wizard Lake, came before council, correct? The second and third did not, was handled internally administrative wise. Is that correct?
No.
There has been no formal process initiated for either one of them. That's what I'll say.
All right, thank you. And then my last question is, if this letter came to the county on February 8th, it's March 22nd today.
Mm-hmm.
Why has it taken so long to have this information presented in front of us?
Simply management of priorities, Madam Chair. It took some time for administration to look back into files and get some history together and put a report together for council and get it on the agenda.
Thank you.
Councillor Smith?
I'd be prepared to move the recommendation that council receive this report for information. I do have a couple of comments on it. Kind of perplexing to get the letter claiming that we're not following our own guidelines, which I have to dispute. We're here for a reason and we have the right to make our decisions. I'm just wondering, again, the tone of the letter, where not going the developer's way. So a little bit concerned, receive this information. And I'm looking for other direction that council around this table may have to address it. For me, I don't see anything else coming out of it other than it was a letter indicating an opinion. So I would say receive his information and let it move on, as I really don't see the problem that was stated in the letters.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? I agree with you, Councillor Smith. It is unfortunate that when decisions don't go the way of any developer, that the next recourse is to come and complain that somehow council has made flawed decisions. And I think what we do is we get very good recommendations and advice from our administrations to be able to move forward. I'm wondering, Councillor Smith, if you believe or think we should respond back with a letter to the applicant. I think that if I could, the very last paragraph provided under discussion actually says exactly what we believe, right? We do have the right within our MDP to make decisions that are within the decision of council, but I was wondering if you were of the mind that a letter should be sent back. Thank you.
I would accept that within the recommendation.
Okay. So move as information and respond back. Okay. Any further comments or questions on this? All right. Just as a FYI, when the letter I received in my mailbox, I forwarded it directly to Mr. Main and Mr. Coleman on the same day that I received it for comment and response. Thank you. Councillor Vandenberg.
Well, I guess my concern that still resides in me is the time frame here. You have somebody who's quite active, looking at investing into our county, regardless of the quality of the complaint or not, to which there's a lot of things going on in here that is not part of this report. So I frankly don't even recall that the letter that we are proposing to return. I'm interested in ensuring that the message that Leduc County is certainly a place to consider for future projects, regardless of in spite of what this has already transpired. So I'm a little bit concerned that I believe we've taken this long to put some attention to somebody who's obviously wanting to commit and invest into our community.
Thank you. Councillor Smith, comment?
Again, I really wouldn't want to get into their allegations of improper or not great decision-making. I stand behind what we do at this table. This is their opinion. They're entitled to that. And sometimes I don't address opinions that go against the facts that we work on at the table. So I think it'd be respectful to send a letter back acknowledging the letter, but also indicating to them that the business that we conduct will stand behind. And if they're truly investors, they can take no for an answer and they can change and come back and put some stuff up. We work with a lot of developers in Leduc County that don't walk through the door and get what they want on day one, but good developers that want to stick with us and show that they're going to develop in the county generally will work around what we're doing. So I'm concerned about the letter, other than acknowledging and again addressing their issues isn't my problem, unless it's a Leduc County problem. And I'm not seeing anything within Leduc County that is going wrong that requires further information other than a thank you letter.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor to receive for information and respond with a letter back. Okay, thank you. Any further comments or questions on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. And we are at 1:16. So with that, I will call to order our first public hearing of the afternoon. So good afternoon, everyone. The public, we are here for a public hearing. Council is here to listen to the information presented and make a decision on the matter, which is the subject of the hearing, which is Land Use Bylaw 7-08 Amendment, LA 21-004. This is a formal hearing and not a debate, and everyone wishing to speak who has pre-registered will be given an opportunity to speak once to the matter as called on by myself, the chair. Each presenter must state his or her full name, rural address, and their interest in the matter, including whether they are in support or non-support. Individuals who do not identify themselves will not be given an opportunity to speak. Presenters are asked to stay within a 5-minute time limit of their presentation and are encouraged when speaking to keep their presentation to the point and refrain from restating points raised by previous speakers if possible. If new presentation materials are provided, you may be required to email a copy to our legislative coordinator. With that, I will start the hearing and call on our planning and development staff to introduce the public of the hearing. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Leduc County has received this application from Select Engineering Consultants Limited on behalf of Pioneer Skies Business Park Incorporated to redistrict 80 acres of lands located at the northeast of 55124 west of 4th, directly adjacent and east of the Nisku Spine Road. These are the lands as you can see it there. This proposal is, or this application is proposing to redistrict the lands from the agricultural district to the light industrial district. The purpose of this proposed amendment to allow for development of light industrial uses in accordance with the QE2 Business Park Local Area Structure Plan. So on February 22nd, Leduc County Council adopted the amendment to the QE2 Business Park Local Area Structure Plan. This is a diagram from that amendment there to incorporate the expansion of the QE2 Local Area Structure Plan lands to east of the Spine Road, which is identified as phase 2. So these, on this diagram, the phase 2 comprises the application of where the amendment is proposed. This is an aerial photograph of the lands, as you can see here. So these aerial photos are a little bit older, so the buildings have been removed and prepared for future development. This is the diagram from the advertisement, advertising the proposed redistricting. The general purpose of the light industrial district is, as proposed in the amendment, is to allow for logistics and distribution, warehousing opportunities, as well as complementary opportunities for other uses such as commercial and retail and hospitality. So these lands are located in the North Nisku area of the Nisku Major Employment Center Area Structure Plan. So the vision for that plan is to have logistics, warehousing, operations of that nature with a high aesthetic appearance, landscaping, that sort of development. As well, the QE2 Business Park Local Area Structure Plan, as it is now, supports this exact type of proposal and the intent of the light industrial district. So for these reasons, this amendment aligns with the policies of the North Major Employment Center Area Structure Plan, as well as the QE2 Business Park Local Area Structure Plan. And for that reason, Planning and Development is recommending that council give first, second, and third reading to this proposed amendment. The notice of public hearing was advertised for 2 consecutive weeks in accordance with the provisions of the Municipal Government Act. There were no concerns raised in regards to the proposed amendment. There was one adjacent landowner that responded in support of the proposed development. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Any clarifying questions from council to administration? Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. Can you tell me where our boundary ends? I know the city of Edmonton has just annexed. Can you tell me if to the right of your photo, is that the city of Edmonton?
To the right?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, those are our lands as
Okay.
well. Yeah. Edmonton is further just to the north, but the lands to the east there are all contained within Leduc County.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any further clarifying questions for administration? I am seeing none. You can step back. Have we received any additional relevant information, Mr. Coleman, since The agenda package was put out?
Nothing, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And we'll call on Select Engineering and the applicant to come forward to speak to the application. If you could, gentlemen, could introduce yourselves first and then begin your presentation.
Thank you, Madam
Oh,
Mayor.
you need to turn your microphone on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. My name is Bladen Dibben. I'm a planner with Select Engineering.
Mayor DeBlanco, Council, my name is Brian Middleton, and I'm one of the, I'm part of the ownership of Pioneer Skies Business Parking.
Well, welcome. So anything you would like us to know about your application?
We don't have any presentation, just here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the applicant? I guess I have a question. Has the experience working with our administration been a positive experience for you gentlemen? And if not, how could we make it better?
Mayor DeBlanco, members of council. I know in the audience, Charlene's here, Dave's here, Amaral's here, and Chelsea's here. I have been in the development business for 43 years in terms of my own company, and I can honestly tell you that Leduc County is the best municipality I've ever had to work in. I will tell you on behalf of the Monarch Business Park Group, which I'm involved with as well. We will have in less than 3 years at the end of this construction season constructed over 1 million square feet of building in Monarch Business Park. We've built at least one other building in the county, and on the Balkan lands, which were Arthur Balkan's old lands, that's how we refer to them. There's going to be some really interesting, something that's really interesting that I think county council and the administration, we're going to be as well extremely excited about. We can't tell you now, but if all goes well as we anticipate, it's very, very, very exciting for North Nisku and for the county. And we have planned at this point in time 164,000 square foot building that we'll go in the ground with as soon as we can. But in all honesty, we'd like to thank you for your council support and the administration. I talk to them regularly, and as I've never experienced a better group of people in my entire career.
Thank you for that. And the fact that you know them all by name shows that there is a good relationship. Any further questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming in. You can step back.
Thank you.
Do we have any pre-registered speakers, Ms. Gavin? No one has pre-registered. Anyone here today to speak for or against the land use bylaw amendment LA 21-004? I'm seeing no one come forward. Council, do we have any further questions for administration? Do we need to have them come back? I am seeing none. With that, then I will close the public hearing at 1:24 and open the floor for debate. Miss Councillor Smith.
I thought you called me miss. Again, we put the infrastructure in. We are looking for developers. They are here. The Spine Road investment, the work going into 510, everything that we're trying to do to attract the development, looking forward to some good news and some different things going in there. So I would be prepared to move first reading on this redistricting today.
Thank you. First reading is on the floor. Open for debate on first reading. Comments or questions? Councillor Lewis.
Just a comment, I will support first reading today, probably second and third as well. It's great to see the steps that these developers and land developers have taken and working through the process. We just had the redistricting or the rezoning in front of us. So this is just the next step, and happy to have you in the county.
Seeing no other hands up, we'll call the question on first reading. All in favor? It is unanimous. Second reading, Councillor Balazer. Okay, second reading is on the floor. Comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor? Unanimous. Third reading in the same day, Councillor Vandenberg, and this needs to be a unanimous vote to go to have 3 readings in the same day. All in favor? And third reading. Councillor Lewis, comments or questions? Just echo what I heard from my colleagues. Glad to continue to have you in the county to work with. Please let us know whatever else council or administration can do to make investment easy in Leduc County. We always tell people it's easy, and your comments today were very heartfelt and I think put a smile on everybody's face here. So thank you for that. Third reading, all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. We're not quite at 1:30 for our next hearing. Mr. Coleman, an idea? Quick break.
Perhaps a short break, Madam Chair.
Okay, I'm going to recess for 5 minutes. We'll come back at 1:32 for our second public hearing. Thank you. Don't go away if you're online though. It takes too long to get you back. We're at 1:31, so I did say 1:32, but by the time I get through the preamble, we should be about right. So good afternoon. I'm Mayor Blanco, going to call our public hearing to order. This public hearing is for the road allowance closure and land sale Township Road 480 to the Waters. This is a formal hearing and not a debate. Everyone wishing to speak who has pre-registered will be given an opportunity to speak once to the matter as called on by myself, the chair. Each presenter must state his or her full name, rural address, and their interest in the matter, whether, pardon me, they are in support or non-support. Individuals who do not speak, who do not identify themselves will not be given an opportunity to speak. Presenters are asked to stay within a 5-minute time limit, and we do time. And are encouraged when speaking to keep the presentation to the point and refrain from restating points raised by previous speakers if possible. If new presentation materials are provided, you may be required to email a copy to the legislative coordinator. With that, I will call on our engineering staff to introduce the subject of the hearing. So Chelsea and Amro. Thank you. And once you are settled, you may begin your presentation.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Council. At their February 14th meeting, the Public Works Committee adopted a resolution to commence the process of the closure of a portion of the undeveloped road allowance for Township Road 480 east of Highway 795. As per Section 22 of the MGA, a road allowance closure must be completed by municipal bylaw, which requires advertising. The proposed road allowance closure was advertised in the March 4th and 11th issues of the Leduc Rep. On March 2nd, the road closure was published in the Leduc County Public Participation Opportunities webpage, as well as a notice on the front page of the Leduc County website. A letter to the adjacent landowners was sent on February 24th. Administration received a letter of opposition from an adjacent landowner, which is attached. Administration does not consider the objection valid as the aerial photos show access around the south portion of the water body. The potential road closure was referred to the various utility companies. ATCO Gas and Pipelines requires a utility right-of-way agreement. Administration recommends that council provide first reading of the road closure bylaw.
Thank you very much. I will open the floor for any clarifying questions related to the road closure. Clarifying questions, Councillor Vandenberg?
Yes, you had mentioned that the aerials submitted were not valid because of the location of the water body to the south. Can you illustrate what you mean by that, please?
Yes, so
Perhaps if we can switch to those aerials.
So in the next attachment, in the adjacent landowners there, it shows where the landowners are. So the complaint is about that water body there for Tinston.
That is to the north of the green and red line, correct?
That's right, yeah. Yeah, so they can't access that parcel in wet years is what the concern is. And in the next attachment, it shows multiple aerial photos of the different years where it kind of proves that there is access to that land.
So,
Oh, sorry, it might be one more attachment down.
okay, if I may, can you back up one and show me how you can't access the land? And then you've made a point that you can access the land on the previous, with a pointer or something, like I'm not following.
Yeah.
I want to
Yes, you
understand.
may approach the screen. Go ahead, whatever works for you, Chelsea.
So the complaint was that they can't access down here.
Okay,
So I have some attachments for aerials where it does show that this water body does grow, but there's a very clear path right along here to access this land. And I also want to add that this is currently leased by Mr.
okay, and so the access is there a range road to the right side, the east side of that property? Is that how they gain access? As you went like this?
Yeah, there's a tiny, it appears to be a little road, but it's in his private property.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. So just on that, if I may, so is it the assertion of the, I guess it's the Trinstons that they had been using that access off 795 to get to that property?
They never clarified that
Okay.
specifically.
Okay,
Mhm.
nope, that's fine, just a question. Any more clarifying questions for administration? Okay, now I have one. I believe council was working on this file previously. Why was it not finished before?
Madam Chair, so in 2018, the applicant applied. It was, first reading was provided. It went to Alberta Transportation. And if second and third reading are not done within the 2 years of the first reading, it expires. So it sat with Alberta Transportation. We were told kind of COVID, different reasons, it just got forgotten about. And then it expired, so we had
Okay.
to bring it back.
Okay, so it wasn't that Alberta Transportation said no, they just never got to it. Within our time frame, we didn't get to second and third reading, so we have to restart the process.
That's right.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Councillor Smith and then Councillor Balazer. Clarifying questions.
Could I get a larger map just to get a better orientation of the area, if possible?
Like a GIS map, like the big.
just something I can get a better
indication
Okay, just we're going to see if we can pull it up. No apologies, Councillor Smith, you need to have the information that you need. You want almost like a big ownership map. Yep.
Like from our GIS system?
Yeah.
Yeah, just,
Yeah.
probably 5 kilometers out, just to get better orientation, however.
Need to pull that up. Yeah, no, and so, yeah, our GIS, our land ownership map, one of those that you could pull up. If it's difficult to pull up, perhaps on the overhead, we could put the ownership map up. That will show you 4 or 5 kilometers out. Oh, we're switching over. And this is one of the times where Mr. Thomas would have done this for us, and his retirement is being felt.
Got a shortcut key on my computer.
Would you like to show that to Councillor Smith?
It is, it's right at
That's
the
the
border.
problem.
I remember that too. I thought.
Yeah, yeah, no, and that's why it didn't get through. It's that very unique situation. All right, we're working on it. That's what that means. Okay, here we go. Let's see how well
Oh, yes, I do.
we know the area here. Straight south of Kalmar, 795. Right to the south.
4,000. Yep.
Whoa. Okay, back up a bit. Yep. A little bit more. You wanted to see a couple of quarter sections? Yep, a little bit, back up a bit more there for Councillor Smith. He wants to see. And if you want to smaller yet, do you see where the property is?
Again, now, I might.
Yep.
Question. On the property with the water body, is there access through the north or top part of the screen to get into that field?
Through the chair, I haven't been out there. This request came in again over the winter, so I haven't really gone out and walked around and had a good lay of the land. So unfortunately, I can't answer that.
Is it different owners?
I get an indication. Thank you for that.
Okay. Councillor Balazer, you had a question?
Yes, I do. So the first time around, we had first reading and 2 years went by and nothing happened. So we had to start this over again. So if we pass first reading today, does this go back to transportation again?
Through the chair, yes. Yeah.
Just be next.
Okay. All right, it's the process we follow. Thanks for that clarification. Any further questions? I am, Counselor.
I will, because I think that's where Counselor Smith is going. The property to the north, is that the same ownership as a property to the question?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so the owner owns both them quarters north and south of each other. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Further questions for administration before we ask the applicant to come forward? And again, we have another opportunity at the end of the hearing. All right, thank you very much. You can step back, Mr. and Mrs. Waters. You want to come forward? And Faye, you'll have to turn your microphone on. It's just the big, yep. So if you just introduce yourselves and tell us why you need or you would like to have this road allowance closed and then to purchase it.
Yes, Madam Mayor DeBlanco and councilors, I'm Herb Waters.
I'm Faye Waters, his wife. We would like the road closed, just, I guess it's just at the very end of our existing driveway, sorry. It's not a driveway we use other than every drunk in the world seems to drive in there and wreck his car or truck or whatever. It hasn't been used. Nobody's used it. We blocked it off. It's just a nuisance, but it would be nice if we could just close it off and have it a piece of our property.
Could I, when we bought our farm way back in 1994, there was a road, I guess it never used to go 795 years and years ago because that was a big slough south. So there was a road that came off there and went through our property. In 2009, County of Wetaskiwin got a hold of us and they said, we'll sell the road back to you. So we did, and we bought it, and we have our title with it that shows we bought it back in 2009. Nobody ever told us there was a few feet on the end of that road that belonged to County of Leduc. So we always thought we owned the whole thing from 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And this came up just 2 years ago, I believe, Tanny. And
Okay. All right, Councillor Vandenberg, questions? Thank you for
Yes.
that.
Can you remind us, how large is this piece we're talking about?
1.07 acres.
And
It's like a
according-
driveway.
It's just a driveway.
Okay, according to what we have here in front of us, it's a blacked out section, which does not accurately reflect what your request is. So that's why I'm asking the clarifying question. So what you're saying is at the point of 795 going east,
Yes,
or the width of a right of way,
yes.
that would equal to length times width,
1.0
7 of an acre, I believe.
something like that.
a tenth of an acre.
Yeah,
Okay, so that red bar actually should be slid to the west a bit. Is that correct?
Yes, by a long ways.
Or there may be a caveat there. We might want to ask administration. There might be a caveat on 795 for expansion, but that might be a question for
And I think
administration.
clarity above everything is important right here. Like, just understand what it is that the request
Yeah.
is for.
Mhm.
And that's the reason for my question.
Okay, any other questions? Go ahead.
On this piece of land right now, you say it's kind of a nuisance. Are people using this land to drive into other areas right now?
No, just us.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just to clarify, Mr. Waters, there is a gate just off 795, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any further questions?
The reason we put the gate up, madam, is because people come down that South Wizard Lake Road and they use it for a drinking spot.
Yeah.
And they come right around through our other yard. And there was lots of hassle. There was people drinking in our yard, running over dogs and go out our other driveway and smash the other gate down all the time.
Okay, so this helps to create a more fulsome yard for you, as well as getting rid of other issues that have happened because it's a road allowance. Is
That's
that correct? Okay. Any further questions for the Waters? Councillor Vandenberg?
One, is it possible to take that current road allowance and continue to drive east for some period of time?
no,
Okay,
No, there's no road allowance.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any further questions? I am seeing none. Thank you very much. If you can step back.
Thank you.
Have we had any other information aside from what's been included in the package and our registered speakers, Mr. Coleman? We have not.
Nothing else, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. We do have a registered speaker, Mr. Frank Osterwald. If you want to come forward, we need you to, no, you're on your own, sir. You need to state your name, your address, and whether you're in support or not support. If you could, please, and you need to turn on your microphone. Yep. Whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and Council. My name is Frank Osterwald. My wife Susan is sitting behind me. We reside in the county of Leduc on the southeast of 154826. And we are the owners of the quarter to the north of the red on southwest of 6. So we currently own the quarter that the road allowance that is in question is up against. When this issue came forward 4 years ago, we submitted 2 letters to the engineering department, which I have. I sort of assumed that you would have those, but by comments, it's apparent that you don't have them. Part of the issue with this road allowance closure is that there are buildings on the road allowance owned by Waters, and whatever the rules are, in the county of Leduc or Wetaskiwin, that's currently an encroachment, I would say. And we developed a property for my daughter years ago, and there were lots of rules that we had to abide by in terms of setbacks from boundaries. And our first concern here is that even if you do sell this piece of land to Waters, which that's your decision, those buildings or improvements or whatever they are may still be within that setback distance, and you should be aware that other properties have to abide by those setbacks. The other issue is at the time we had asked for a survey be submitted to us that would clearly show where the boundaries of the properties are and where the buildings are and where the septic pump out would be to the buildings that are currently there. And those requirements are also, stipulated in the county bylaws for development. And we went through that when we developed a previous property. So those are issues that we feel that need to be addressed before this sale can satisfy us. With regard to where the red mark is indicated, if you blow that or pull that image back, you'll see that there's a drainage that goes through our quarter section, and the reasonable access to that triangle in the corner for us, possibly in the future, would be from that corner of to the west of where that red mark is on your map. And so we also feel that does not leave us enough room to properly access that part of our quarter section. The north part of that, northeast part of that quarter section that we own is accessed from the north side. But there is a drainage, a number of drainages through there that restrict our access to the southwest corner of the property. So that's another issue with the way that is drawn up on your document there. With regard to the access to, I don't remember, Stinston, I believe what the engineering department referred to. I believe when we purchased that property 20 or 25 years ago, there is actually a caveat on our property allowing Tinston to access across our land to access that part of his land. I believe that he never uses that, or at least I've very rarely seen evidence that he's using that access because he has alternate access one way or another. Finally, I think that's, and finally, I would submit that if the sale is agreed to in some form, and I believe it should be altered at least to some degree, and some of our asks be granted, we would ask that if you're going to close that road allowance, that we be given the opportunity to purchase the rest of it.
Mr. Osterwald, you are right on 5 minutes. That was the closest to 5 minutes I've seen as the mayor.
And I don't even wear a watch.
Well done, sir. I do have a question. How are you currently accessing that quarter section? Because there isn't or is there a approach off 795? I can't see it on the map.
There's an approach off 795 in the north corner.
Okay.
And it's sort of a joint approach for us and for the quarter to the north.
Okay.
It doesn't show up really good because it's not really
Just a field approach.
It's just a field approach.
Okay.
But the caveat that I speak about starts there, and it actually runs along the north quarter line to the middle of the quarter, runs south for 100 meters, back west around that slough, and then back into the southeast quarter of that section. So it's just an impractical.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, I heard at one point, and I've not investigated it, but I heard at one point that an oil company actually pushed some dirt in for that landowner on his quarter so that he could drive across there. So I'm not going to dispute his objection to anything, but that's what I heard.
Any other questions for Mr. Osterwald? Go ahead, Councillor Vandenberg.
Is it possible to pull up the GIS again and see the lines of water flow of the creeks so that I can
Perfect. It's right there.
kind of
To what?
to see the creeks that you refer to, the
Oh.
water flow.
Yeah.
So if we can zoom in on that 795 portion,
So
I just want to see if
do
we
I
can
point
see
on
something.
anything here?
It
or-
may be difficult because
We've got it, sir.
there's a lot of trees in that corner, it looks like.
Well, so the water flows from here. All of this, and it goes this way. And then it flows, yeah, just keep going this way. And then it flows down here into this little dugout. And then it sort of disperses towards the highway. And then it also flows.
Oh, my
Yeah,
goodness.
I could just stand up there and point.
Or you can use mouse, how about that?
Okay. How do I do this?
Okay, so let's go south.
Okay, so here's the water body and it flows this way. And then it flows into here.
Yep.
And then it flows down here to a culvert that's underneath the road here. It also flows from all of this wetland that's down here into here and then onto there. And then it flows into Wizard Lake from there one way or another.
So can we move it down south a little bit closer to the waters or that, yep, right there we go. That's the corner you wanted to see, Councillor
Yeah,
Vanderbilt?
because I thought I heard you say at that corner where it says you've got written there currently, 795, right there.
Yeah.
You had mentioned something to do with water and creek and I thought, that's why I just want to clarify. That must be higher lands and they're going to be flowing northward, northwestward.
The water where the 4 X's is right now, that's all bush and higher land. And it flows, the water would flow towards the north in that area.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any further questions for Mr. Osterwald? Seeing none, thank you for your presentation and some interesting history. We appreciate that. Administration, could you come back, please? I think we have a few questions for you. Clarifying, any other further questions for administration from council? Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. The water is mentioned, it was 1.07 acres. On your information, it says 0.59 acres. Can you clarify which is correct, please?
Through the chair, yeah, I'll have to follow up with Mr. Waters because this was what was proposed in 2018. One of the confusing things was AT came back with the 30-meter right-of-way, which is why it's been pushed back. And that's why the bylaw ended up having to get amended. So.
Thank you. Do we, a couple of things, should this go forward? What requirements would there be? I mean, and I realize there's current buildings there related to Mr. Osterwald's comments about setback. Do we know if the buildings there, should the Waters purchase the, be able to purchase the right of way, would there be enough setback from the fence for those buildings?
Madam Chair,
We'd have to work.
because it would be consolidated with Wetaskiwin, I've actually been back and forth. This is a development issue on the Wetaskiwin side. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're working 2 municipalities because this is right on the border between the two. Good thing we get along well. That's the great thing. And my last question is, do we know anything of this caveat related to Mr. Osterwald's? Okay, I'm going to set that aside because it's not necessarily about this case, but it is an interesting part of how he's using his land or can use his land. Amro?
So we were not aware of that caveat.
Okay.
No.
Councillor, we're just questions still. We're not in debate.
Questions.
Microphone, please. Thank you.
We talked about buildings on that right away. Now, my question is, are they permanent buildings or are they buildings on skids that could be moved?
Through the chair, I believe the one on the west is a mobile home. And then I think the 4 on the east are tractor trailer, C-cans, something like that. I don't believe those 4 are permanent.
Okay, thank you.
So to further on that, so if push comes to shove, they could be moved. Would that be the answer?
Through the chair, yes, the 4 on the right, I'm confident those can move. I'm not sure about the mobile home.
Okay,
Councillor
thank you.
Lewis and then Smith.
Thank you. Seeing this is a road right of way, does the county of Wetaskiwin also have to do a bylaw to close the road right of way, or is that ours only?
Through the chair, it's Leduc County's roadway. And then as soon as that green line south of that, that's Wetaskiwin. So when we sell it, it would be consolidated with Wetaskiwin, but for the road allowance closure, that's only Leduc County.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Smith?
Clarifying question. Of course, you've got the trailers up there, which are movable. The one piece that isn't, what tool would be available if that isn't within boundary guidelines? A variance is possible? And does that happen? It's.
No, I'm sorry, Mr. Waters, just we're doing this piece. You'll have an opportunity at the end for some final comments. So listen to anything that you might want to add.
Through the chair, because that would be, so we could do an encroachment agreement if it doesn't go through with the closure, road allowance closure. However, if it does, it would be the Wetaskiwin's planning department. So I'm not sure what sort of I don't know if that answers your
Okay,
question.
no,
sorry.
it's, makes sense, right? It becomes part of the county of Wetaskiwin because the ownership of the land is in Wetaskiwin, so that piece would be too. Councillor Vandenberg.
Other than us hearing from Mr. Osterwald today and submissions that he made 4 years ago, are you aware of his interest in this land as well?
Through the chair, yes,
And I guess just for clarifying, was that documented in the
2020?
was that documented in submissions that he made back in 2018?
through the chair, yes, I actually believe Mr. Thomas had brought this to PWC in 2018 and it was referred until we sorted out what the waters closure was going to happen, I believe was what happened.
Okay, thank you.
Right. And again, just on that point to administration, Mr. Osterwald is interested in the remainder of the road allowance, not the part that the waters are talking about. Was that correct?
Yes.
Okay, which would then become County of Leduc.
Right.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any further comments or questions? I'm sorry, for administration.
Yes, please. Can you go back to the diagram, the aerial photo that has the red bar on it?
The one in our package.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's supposed to be, well, we don't know if it's 0.5 or 0.1 of an acre, do we? But that's not my question. My question is that if you could satisfy two neighbors, you could split the difference and satisfy them both. Is that possible?
Through the chair.
Sorry, what I don't understand your question, but it appears Chelsea might.
So if you provide first reading when it comes to the close, like the land sale part, we would split it down the middle and then the north neighbor would get the north half, south neighbor would get the south half, but they would have to be in agreement on that.
Okay.
So there is a way to move through the process. Councillor Smith?
All right, I just again wanted to deal with the issue that we have before us today on the request and not plan for the neighbors in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any further questions for administration? I'm seeing none. Mr. and Mrs. Waters, you do have an opportunity for final comments. Any comments you wanted to add to that you've heard that you think we need to know? It's your opportunity. Come forward. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Not really any further comments, but that trailer was there and we put an addition on the side of it. It's been there since the beginning of time. That's how it ended up there.
So the trailer was there when you bought the property?
That's right.
Okay.
And then another thing that we had, when the county of Leduc sold us that road, our county with Wetaskiwin, we thought we owned everything right to the end.
You had thought it
That's
was
when we found
complete.
out that there's a few feet that belong to the county of Leduc, which is 27, 28 years later, we find this out. Thank you.
A challenge of living on the border, I guess.
I guess, and learning stuff later on in years.
Okay,
But
thank you
for
very
your
much.
time and thank you for our consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Waters. So I will close our public hearing at 2:04 and open for debate by council. Well, I will start. I will actually move first reading today. I think that this makes sense. I remember when this came forward last time and speaking with Mr. Waters, who again, you know, when they had gone through the issues with Wetaskiwin County, were sure that they had purchased all they needed to purchase, had done all of that work. This is sort of one of those unnecessary, for my opinion, one of those unnecessary bureaucratic pieces because of where it sits. I believe that there's opportunity. The Waters are not interested in any more than what they have, what they're asking for. So there would be opportunity for other landowners like the Osterwolds or the Tinstons to look at purchasing other pieces. But that's not what our issue is today. So I will move first reading. With that, the floor is open for debate or questions. I am not seeing any hands up. Oh, I am seeing one hand up.
Thank you. This is the second time it's come before us, not because it wasn't passed last time, it was supported last time by council to move first reading. So I will support today in efforts to help solve some problems out there within the county.
Thank you. Councillor Vandenberg? I'm sorry, sir, just if I may, Mr. Osterwald, the public hearing is closed. Council is now debating. So you have no opportunity to add any more information. Sorry, and then I closed the public hearing. There was an opportunity for the applicant always to have the last opportunity. I then closed the public hearing and it now becomes the discussion of council. That's a public hearing process. Thank you. Councillor Vandenberg, the floor is yours.
I would be inclined to support the first reading as well, with the understanding that when we come back to second reading, that our administration has spoken to others for some resolution. Yes, it's not before us, but it is a part of the complexity of this. That's what, there's hesitation from my part because it involves others. And in my mind, the others are important to this, and but it still doesn't stop me from supporting first reading.
Okay, thank you very much. We're in debate on the motion, which is to pass first reading. Councillor Smith.
I'll be supporting first reading today. I guess, again, listening to everybody today and the concerns they have, there seems to be solutions to everybody's interests out there. There seems to be solutions to everybody's needs. Somehow the farms have continued to function with the road being part of Leduc County. So I think together, practicality will reign here and people will be able to continue to farm land much the same as they're doing today. And again, there's land available if somebody wants to look at the sale and closure as well. Thank you.
Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. Just a point of clarity within the motion, it talks about a certain amount of property. At what point are we going to clarify what the actual acre amount is?
To administration, to either Amro or Chelsea. You said you were not sure that the amount was correct. Do we know exactly what the amount is? Okay, that's what was requested in the application, so that's what we'll vote on. Okay. All in favor of first reading? That is unanimous. The process now is it goes to Alberta Transportation, is that correct? And perhaps at a public works meeting, we can talk about some of the other issues that we heard raised by the Osterwolds that we might be able to help them solve. Thank you very much. Thank you. On to Ms. Weiss, 6A1, which is 2021 carry forward request. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Council. I'm here today with what's hopefully our last two requests for 2021 as we close the year. This first request likely looks familiar as we were here in February requesting some 2021 carry forwards. So essentially 2021 carry forwards are for projects that were approved in the 2021 budget but not completed by December 31st. In this case, this carry forward relates to the 2022 graveling program, which actually runs from December until March. So this carry forward request is to complete the graveling program within 2022 and transfer $460,000 to the special purpose reserve.
Okay, thank you very much. So because the graveling program crosses the calendar year, we have to move money because it's only provided money for 1 year. Okay, looking for someone to make the motion. Councillor Lewis.
Happy to make the motion.
Okay, move that we transfer $460,000. Any further questions? Sounds like the graveling program is going well, so that's a good thing, despite the road conditions. All in favor? That's unanimous. Okay, the next one's a little more complicated. Go ahead, Ms. Weiss.
A little bit. So for this one, what we're looking at is our final transfer to reserves. So we're at the point now where all of our transactions are in. We're now in a position to look at some additional funds that may be available to transfer to reserves. So right now we are identifying 1.88 million in reserve transfers that's related to capital project savings, additional permit revenues, as well as operational savings, which mostly seem to come from the COVID side of things and less travel, that type of thing. So we're recommending that we transfer 1.285 million to the capital engineered structures management reserve. So this is in part due to decreased provincial grant funding, as well as to replenish the reserve as we complete the Nisku Spine Road project. And the second transfer that we're looking at is 600,000 to our operating special purpose multi-year reserve. And this one will pertain specifically for the business retention expansion program, which was brought forward, I believe it was last week. So that we're earmarking those funds for that project.
Okay, and the remaining 60,000?
This is if there is any additional
Okay.
changes as we finalize the financial statements. So what you'll see April 5th, we'll have quarterly reporting come forward where you'll see a detailed account of where our surpluses and are. And then on April 12th, we get to bring our auditors, Metrics Group, and they'll come and present the financial statements. So if there's any transfers or any adjustments between then and now that are less than 60,000, we would transfer it to the stabilization and contingency reserve.
Perfect. Thank you. Questions on the 2021 year end transfer to reserves? I am seeing none. I'm looking for someone to put a motion on the floor. Councillor Wanchuk, Leduc County Council approve the 2021 year-end financial transfers. Number one, transfer 1.285 million to capital asset lifecycle management engineered structure management reserve. Number two, transfer of $600,000 to operating special purpose multi-year / future year projects reserve. And number three, any additional surplus dollars above approximately $60,000 identified during the year end process be transferred to the operating stabilization and contingency reserve. Comments or questions on those? I am seeing no hands. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you
again for your minding our pennies so we don't have to mind the dollars.
You're welcome.
On to, is that you, Mr. Marigwad?
Yes, Madam Chair.
And we are going to be looking at NS 14 Country Residential Subdivision Access Road Surfacing Policy. So whenever you're set up and ready to go, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So at the May 10th, 2021 Public Works Committee meeting, again, some time ago, administration was directed to develop a policy requiring the developer to pave the last link. This would be from the nearest paved road to their subdivision entrance. We have developed this policy for consideration and it was reviewed by the Public Works Committee on December 13th of 2021. From this meeting, it resolved that this matter be forwarded to the Municipal Policy Committee, where it was reviewed by the group and it was to be forwarded to council for presentation and ideally adoption. This policy is structured to require the developer to surface the roadway from the nearest paved roadways to their subdivision at their cost and to the county's requirements. If necessary, the developer will also need to upgrade or rebuild the adjacent county road in order to support the necessary hot mix paved structure. With this policy in place, this would also require the rescinding of policy MS-13, Rural Road Surfacing Contribution, and an amendment to bylaw 1921 fees and charges. Policy MS-13 required that developers provide a contribution to the municipality for every lot over 5 lots to eventually surface the roadway at the county's expense. Understanding that we are now putting this obligation on the developer when they develop their subdivisions, this becomes a dated and redundant policy. It's been superseded by the new policy. So what I am requesting council to do is to adopt policy MS-14, Country Residential Subdivision Access Road Surfacing Policy, and that policy MS-13, Rural Roadway Surfacing Contribution, be rescinded.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions on the policy? Councillor Scobie, you're the chair of Policy Committee. Anything from our discussion that you think is relevant you would like to share?
Covers our user pay.
Oh, your microphone.
I think it covers our newer user pay policy. So this puts the onus of this cost on the developers rather than it coming up for taxpayers at a later date. So I think this does the job.
Okay, thank you very much. And that was much of the discussion and solving a problem when a subdivision is then fully built out. And we have residents who were expecting to have a hot mix road all the way to their subdivision and they're looking to the county to do it. This actually is a strong go forward policy that helps the county navigate those expectations. Councillor Lewis.
And just a comment as we work through the policy, we had looked at policies within other municipalities that are in similar distance to us to see what they had too. And a lot of this fits quite nicely with what they had as well.
Thank you. Councillor Vandenberg.
So I'm trying to understand the relationship of number 2 to number 3. I know what they say, but I'm wondering, does number 2 need to exist if you already have number 3, which goes into a little bit more detail as to what the expectation would be. Number 2 says if necessary, so therefore it kind of challenges whether or not, but regardless, you have to do number 3. Okay, so I'm trying to understand, when does number 2 kick in and number 3 not relevant? Is my first question. My second question is around the agreement.
Okay. Number 3, through the chair. Number 3 is always going to be required. So there's a necessary need for the developer to pave the roadway from the nearest paved road to their subdivision. Now they have to take into account the geotechnical conditions to make sure that the pavement structure that they propose and construct will be appropriate for the geotechnical conditions. Number 2, basically it outlines that the developer will undertake the reconstruction of access road at the developer's cost to support surfacing if necessary. So if the geotechnical conditions come back that it can't support a paved structure, there's too much topsoil, it's an old corduroy road where there's tree trunks and that sort of thing in the structure, or too many rocks. Basically, it's not appropriate for surfacing in its in situ condition. The developer will have to rebuild that roadway. What we're trying to do with condition 2 is make that as explicit as possible, that that is the developer's responsibility, and it cannot be assumed that it may be the municipality's responsibility to do so.
Okay, and if I may, number 1 says to cover, this is the surface covering that's required from point A to point B. Number 2 says, well, go to number 3 because that's really what we're really trying to say here. And so I'm just wondering, number 2 kind of doesn't do anything other than if you added the developer shall provide into his costs, complement number 3, you're doing all the same. It's just wondering, I based on your explanation, 2 does not stand alone still. It can be implemented in 3. While you're considering that, my last question is on number 4, the development agreement. In the typical agreements that we will put into play here, and is there a reasonability to expect there's going to be some bonding that, the developer comes in and says, yep, we're going to do all this and then they change their mind. Of course, if you hold them to their agreement with a bond on it, that there is no mind to be changed.
Yeah. Through the development agreement process, they have to provide securities for any kind of construction. This includes on-site and off-site construction. So they have to provide securities in 100% of the on-site construction, roads, lot grading, any type of other servicing that would be required. They would also be responsible to provide security to the municipality for any of the off-site servicing. So this would be the rebuilding, the paving of the adjacent county roadway. Because if the developer goes and selects not to do it, they become insolvent or any number of reasons, the municipality then has the funds necessary to complete the work, without using taxpayer funds.
Okay, and then finally, I'm going to tie it all together. If in fact in number 3, you're trying to provide unequivocal information as to what the requirement is, should you not carry that forward into number 4? That which you just said, cut it down to 3 or 4 words so that they understand that there's a security component to an agreement. Otherwise, it's inferred or it is a surprise a little bit later. These are the things that are jumping out at me.
If we could definitely put it in place, the concern ends up becoming if that there's a change to the development agreement process, form of security or anything of that nature. Anytime that you do make that change at the development agreement level, it would need to cascade through any other relevant policy that may be in place. A simple amendment, if necessary, would be a development agreement with the appropriate securities, if that is prudent. Really what we're trying to do with this policy is look at what's required for the roadway itself. The development agreement processes is it's a separate process that has some relationship to this, but that becomes a dominant process. This is actually subservient to that.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Smith.
Again, this is actually a nice improvement to the policy because before we had a certain amount of dollars that went into a fund. It really didn't get the roads paved. And Councillor Scobie, you are definitely right that in the end, we come back and pay for these later as taxpayers. So I see good clarity in this. There were people that saying Leduc County doesn't clearly put out what they want. I think if you're a developer, it's pretty easy to figure out these 4. Going forward with new area structure plans, sewer and water, it is the probably role of council to make sure that we have policies and we're working on that. So I like this. I'll support this today. And I look forward to more certainty for our developers, which is already there, but also the developers can pay a little bit more and a little less out of the taxpayers for specific. This may also drive an intelligent developer to pavement that's already there. So if I'm looking at doing a subdivision, do I do it on Clover Lawn Road or do I pay 15 kilometers to go in? So there's going to be some intelligent based decisions there as well for them. So I'll be supporting this today, the change. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to Councillor Vandenberg's point, for me, number 2 talks about the reconstruction of the access road. So that is if we need a better base. Number 3 only talks about surfacing, the surfacing strategy. So that's what you're putting on top. So for me, I see them as being different. One saying if you have to rebuild the road, that's number 2. Number 3 says these are the expectations we have for the surfacing once it's rebuilt, or if it's good enough not rebuilt. I do support your idea of something like a development agreement with the developer will outline any cost share and or bond provisions. I think is a way to put that in without turning this upside down as a policy, and does put that clearly in front. Go ahead.
And I thank you for that. And that sounds, but I would point out number 3, that the reference to geotechnical conditions actually ties in reconstruction of the access road. I could be wrong. I'm not an engineer. But to Councillor Smith's point, this is much clearer going forward than what we have. I'm not here to tie it up with little loose ends. This is an opportunity to make it clear though at this and with the suggestion of number 4, I think it really tidies up the gaps.
So Councillor Smith, you were in support of this. Would you be willing to make the motion? Okay, yeah, sure. Thank you. Mr. Murray-Glad.
Just one comment for number 4. Language sometimes matters, and this happens to be a case. Bonding is a very specific type of security that's required. What I would feel much more comfortable, and I'll also ask Mr. Bain if he has any comment, a development agreement with appropriate securities, because this is a little bit more of a generic, it's more of a generic term, but it could be cash on the barrelhead. It could be a bond if that's acceptable. It could be any number of things, but it has to be in a form and format that's appropriate to the municipality versus bonding, which is a very small subset of that.
And it fits what the Councillor Vandenberg was asking for. And I saw a nod from Mr. Bain that is probably more appropriate. So we will do that.
Thank you.
Councillor Smith has put the motion on the floor to accept and rescind the old policy. Any other further questions? Councillor Vandenberg?
No, just, it doesn't need to reflect as amended because of that subtle change.
Oh, it is.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any further comments or questions? All in favor? Unanimous. 6B2, is that yours as well, Mr. Rigla?
Yes, it is. This report actually has two parts to it. So the first one's going to be dealing with the dust suppression. So at the March 7, 2022 Public Works Committee meeting, the following recommendation was approved to adjust a fee for residential dust control program. Basically what it is calcium chloride has went up by about 0.6 cents per liter, which translates to $19.22 per strip. However, the incorporated dust suppression has seen a much more significant increase. Went from 71.35 cents per liter to 95 cents a liter, which is a total of 23.65 cents per liter. This increases the total cost of an incorporated dust suppression strip by $869.25. So part of the recommendation today is that we adjust the fees and charges to represent the table that's on page 1, basically increasing the cost of calcium chloride charged to the applicant to $400.58 and DL10 incorporated to $3,981.08 for the subsidized cost. I'll break there and ask if there's any questions before I move on to the second component.
Okay, questions on that? I'm seeing none.
Perfect. In addition, I was hoping that policy MS14 would be approved and MS13 would be rescinded. So what else I'm asking of council today is that the entry for rural road servicing contribution per lot can be removed from the current fees and charges bylaw. Because with the adoption of those two policy or adoption of the first policy and rescinding of the second policy, we don't need to reference a rural road servicing contribution.
Okay.
Attached, it was actually two versions of the proposed bylaw, and what we would be proposing is the first version, which includes the dust suppression amendment as well as the removal of the rural road servicing contribution.
All right, makes sense. They're in the right order. So we're looking for someone to move first reading. Councillor Lewis will move first reading. And any comments? I think Mr. Mrigla explained that very clearly about how the two are tied together. All in favor? It's unanimous. Looking for a second reading. Councillor Scobie, thank you very much. Comments or questions? All in favor? Third reading on the same day. Councillor Smith, thank you very much. All in favor? And third reading. Councillor Balazar. Thank you very much. All in favor? That is carried.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're on to our last item on the agenda, which is 3 notices of motions. And notice of motions are read into the record and not debated. They will be debated at our next regular council meeting. So whenever you're ready, and do you have a written copy of those for our legislative coordinator? Thank you. Whenever you're ready, one at a time. Thank you very much. Councillor Vandenberg.
Notice of motion, council communication distribution. Number 1, all council requests, including mayor, to be distributed to all council for information and consideration and reposted electronically or hard copy for council review. This would include requests to attend public and partner openings, announcements and engagements, requests for information or commentary. Number 2, all outgoing messaging, including email responses, acceptance, replies, and letters be circulated to council in advance of going out for information and consideration. This would include official council responses to government agencies, council response to requests for openings, announcements, engagements, or information, all messaging prepared by communications or council for the purpose of attending openings, announcements, or engagement. Second notice of motion. Councillor participation in state county address and promotional county videos. Motion that state of county messaging and county promotional type videos that may include a messaging component on behalf of council include county councillor participation in addition to official spokesperson, if a councillor wishes to participate. That is the second one. And the third one, councillor external committee reporting. Councillors serving on external committee meetings provide external committee agendas for immediate distribution to council prior to the meeting date. Further, that the approved minutes for the external committee meetings be arranged by the attending councillor to be provided for distribution to council or posting to repository. Further, that a summary of key points arising from the external committees be presented in governance and priorities or regular council by the attending councillor or administration. And lastly, further, that a repository be completed by administration to contain all external committee meeting reports for council reference, and a method of distribution to councillors be enacted. External committee reporting will commence from the date of resolution approval.
Thank you. And so, Mr. Coleman, those will be debated at the next meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. With that, that brings us to the end of our meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you for all of those that had joined us virtually. It is 2:32 and I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.